Story number one. Learning how to spend money may be the future of good economic behavior. This story surfaced and made it into the top 8 because economists, people who handle money, have been drawing more interest into how people spend money and how people are using that money, whether they're using it on things they don't need or things they do need. And with the holiday season rolling around, there'll probably be more data on economic behavior. Now, this story is not only it has some key talking points, and it homes in on how people use the money dollar when they get it, pretty much researching how they spend their money. There's some stories that made it in. California's preemptive blackouts put a strain on people with home medical needs. Now, if you haven't been keeping an eye on the news, California has been getting devastated by wildfire, getting pretty much destroyed, and people are finding out that the wealthy have been able to escape or live in better living conditions, while the poor or the middle class have had to suffer. So you will see story number one kind of get into the details of how wealthy people spend money in regards to poor and middle class. Now, the reason why this story is important, and the reason, the big reason why it made it into the top 8, is the fact that when you look at the rich, and you look at the politicians that are taking aim at taking money from the rich and giving it down back to the poor, and the fact that they're having Medicare, Medicaid problems, you probably will see a story like this stick around on how the poor spend money, how the wealthy spend money, and how the middle class spend money. They're even looking at debt consolidation, how people spend their money, how they're taking out loans to pay off their credit card balances, or even their debt at home. There was even a talk, I mentioned this earlier, about a wealth tax. Now, this is they're saying that this wealth tax will encourage more spending by the rich and maybe more political donations, according to Forbes magazine. Now, the thing is that they really don't know what is going to change anything. I think the fact is that the government and economists need people to spend money. If they don't, then they pretty much hoard it, and that's what they don't want. So all of these talk, the reason why story number one made it to the top 8 is the fact that the most important talking point is the fact that economists, people who do data, they need people to spend money. Politicians, and the sad part is that when you've got wealthy people, when you have politicians taking aim at wealthy people, saying that we have to tax them, that means that that people are not spending the money, or they just want them to spend the money. It's very, very, the system is pretty jacked up, especially when you've got 1% of the world holding all the wealth and the other 99% pretty much having their hands out trying to get that wealth. There's flaws in the system. Everybody knows it, and that's why story number one is in the top 8. Hong Kong falls into recession after decade. Now, many people are blaming this on protests. Some people are saying this is because of Trump's trade wars with China. You can see China's economy taking some hits. So you're looking at this, farmers are taking hits. So you're looking at this, when you start messing with people's money, this is what you see happening. You see wild protests, people taking aims at the government, and that's why story number one has all the talking points. That's why it will probably gain some steam, because it's homing in on those issues. What if Americans use their money wisely? This is a headline that crept in because, like I said, we're getting close to the holiday season, and this is what economists will be looking for. These are key talking points in story number one. They'll be keeping their eyes on holiday shopping. If people what happens when people say no to their children, robberies, stealing. This is all things that go on in poor inner city communities when people are desperate. And sometimes it even goes on in the suburbs, even in the rural areas. When people get desperate, they need money, they start doing drastic things to feed their family and make their family members happy. Even when you see poor people out on the street, the drug wars, this all ties into how people are spending money and what people are doing, whether it's philanthropists or donating, or some type of a regeneration. The big thing about story number one is economists need people to spend money, and they need people to spend money wisely. Ex-Army civilian pleads guilty to international scheme that stole millions from veterans, according to the Department of Justice. These are big stories because people, like I said, people are stealing money on all walks of the. There is no really when people look at this type of behavior, they try to find a motive. Sometimes they just look at it and say, what if these people would have known the rules, would they have done this? You will see these injustices happening inside of a democracy, especially if people feel like that somebody is being treated unfairly. They will do this to get this story on the radar, or they could just be doing it for their own, just for greed. So this is why this story is crept into the top 8. Customs agents see 72 grand in cash from Orlando airport traveler. Job numbers stay steady, but growth slows to 1.9%, just shy of Trump's target. So you can see, you can look at the job numbers. You're starting to see that giving the wealthy a tax cut and then basically letting the middle class take care of it. Is this the Trump effect? Is it working? Is the fact that you giving the wealthy more money, is that a way to heal the economy? And we still don't know because we're only in our almost 4th year of this president's term. So we will know how this affects us in the long term in the next 4 years. Fed lowers rates again, but hints it may be done cutting in the near term. So we'll see how this all turns out, as they've just kind of pulled some strings on the economy, and you're starting to see that economists, people who are watching the stock markets, have been up and down, peaking and then falling. So you're starting to see that economists are really getting an idea of what happens when you play with this, you tamper with that, and you start to see what happens. You see the president shouting out the feds. That's why story number 1 has all the ingredients for a good recipe, a good talk, a good discussion, and you may learn something from it. You may learn about how to spend your money. Bloomberg says America's middle class is addicted to a new kind of credit. Major coal producer and Trump booster files for bankruptcy. This is another key story that I'll probably be keeping an eye on, that'll probably stick around and make story number 1 just the topic of money. Because when Trump was running for Congress, he pretty much made a lot of promises, and he had a lot of people on his side, and there were even people from the coal industry on his side, but they've been taking a big hit. And what's sad is that coal provides such a big boost to the energy sector. Now this is big talk in these aisles, because when you talk about coal and you talk about fossil fuels like gasoline, and you talk about all this electric cars, I think it probably we will see how this turns out when you pretty much have the coal industry struggling. Now that's a key source to providing energy, and it's being left alone because of environmentalists. You had black lung disease. So this story, we will see how this turns out, especially after you see companies filing for bankruptcy in the coal industry. They are waving their hands and are saying, hey, we need some help. And that's why you see all this talk about clean energy. But the thing is that either one, you can't have one without the other. You have to have some type of generation. You have to have some type of generation to pretty much stir up electricity. But you need coal, you need nuclear power, you need gasoline. And there's no possible way to fuel the whole earth on a dam, because you don't know if the water dries up, you don't know if the wind's going to stop blowing, you don't know if there's going to be clouds in the sky. So story number 1 has a lot of substance to it. Boeing accused of putting profits before safety. Iowa man killed wife after she found problems with financial plan meeting with banker. So all you can see in story number 1 is money is a hot topic. Definitely will keep people's eye on a story like this. Definitely will make a lot of headlines, and it definitely will continue to keep generating the buzz of what is happening in the economy, the behavior. And this is what the Trump administration is pretty much eating off of right now. This is what they're saying. They're looking at the fact that that is his economy working, and this is why story number 1 will probably stay alive. And I see a story like this definitely staying alive. You're the Mediator, me, Brian Westward. It's my supreme duty every week to give you the top 8 headlines developing news stories. As a child, put up to the clouds and told to go to the masses, mediate, find the stories that are worth something. So like I said, I'm just a mediator staying in the middle. The news, the journalists, the people on the front lines, they deserve most of the credit. I just navigate over 200 more stories every week for you, the reader, the watcher, the viewer, the listener, so you can stay informed, see what's happening. If you want to be a contributor, check out the stories that almost made it in, did make it in. Doesn't take much. All you have to do is visit www.methodinc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Once again, it's above my head. If you want to be a contributor, all you have to do is visit www.methodinc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Every little bit counts.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is